First, I'm going to show you some simple ways to make sandwiches healthier. Of course, it's always a good idea to go for whole wheat or whole grain, but the best kinds of bread to look for are the ones with the least ingredients or the healthiest ingredients. Sprouted grain bread is a great example because most of the ingredients are organic or pronounceable. Instead of mayo, you can go for a healthier option like hummus. The packaged lunch meats and cheeses that you find at the grocery store have a lot of salt in them and are really processed, so a better option is to buy the lunch meats from the deli counter. When you're trying to eat healthier, a good tip is to try to find ways to add vegetables to your meals as much as possible, so here I'm adding baby spinach, which is full of vitamins and minerals. I also added a few tomato slices. This next one is kind of a healthy-ish dessert, and you want to start off by cutting up 2 bananas into slices. These are going to end up sort of like sandwiches, so take some almond or peanut butter and place them in between 2 banana slices. I began melting some chocolate on the stove, but if you want, you can microwave your chocolate. But anyway, I dipped it into the chocolate and shook off all the excess, and then I put it on parchment paper. Then put them in the freezer until they completely harden, and then you have these cute little bite-sized snacks. I know some people surprisingly don't like the taste of water, so you can make it taste better by adding fresh fruit. I added some peaches, some strawberries, and some blueberries. Another idea is you can add some cucumber slices and limes to your water. Instead of pasta, you can try making zucchini noodles instead. What you do is wash your zucchini, chop off the ends, and run it against a cheese grater. I cooked it on the stove, and then I added some pasta sauce and baby tomatoes, and it kind of resembled spaghetti. Instead of adding sugar to your tea, you could try sweetening it up with honey. It has a lot of health benefits, like it helps sore throats and makes your skin look healthier. Pancakes are pretty unhealthy, especially when you add syrup and butter to them, so here's a pancake recipe that only has 3 ingredients and is pretty healthy. The recipe calls for 1 banana for every 2 eggs, so I doubled it and combined together in a bowl 2 bananas and 4 eggs. To mix it together, I use this whisk thing that beats your eggs when you press down, and you want to keep beating it until you hardly see any lumps left and it's very liquidy. This is optional, but you can add some cinnamon as well. When you cook them, you don't want to make them too big because they're a lot flimsier than regular pancakes and they'll most likely fall apart. To top these off, I sprinkled on some coconut flakes, and to substitute syrup, I used honey instead. Chocolate-covered strawberries can be really expensive at the store, but you can save your money and easily make them at home. So I grabbed a couple handfuls of melting chocolate chips and placed them into a pot, and began melting them on the stove. Instead of using milk chocolate, you should use dark chocolate, which actually has a lot of health benefits. Once the chocolate melted, I began dipping strawberries in and rolling them around. To let them harden, I placed them on parchment paper and then put them in the freezer. These were really delicious and just as good as the ones you'd buy at the store. Next, I'm going to show you 2 healthier substitutions for French fries. For these sweet potato fries, I started off by peeling the skin off the sweet potato and cutting them into thin slices. I took a big Ziploc bag and poured in a drizzle of olive oil and added some garlic salt, regular salt, and pepper. I put the fries in the bag and began to toss them around so they were fully covered in the oil. Then I laid them out on a cookie sheet and spread them apart so none of them were on top of each other. I baked them for 20 minutes at 450 degrees, and once they were done, I took them out and sprinkled them with some Parmesan cheese. You can dip them into ketchup if you want, and I like these because they have a lot less fat and more vitamins compared to regular fries. Another way to substitute French fries is by making them with carrots instead. What I did was I took a vegetable peeler and began peeling them into thin slices. Then I took some olive oil and poured it into a bowl and added some salt and pepper. I mixed up the oil and then began brushing it onto a cookie tray. You want to go ahead and dip the carrot slice into the oil, making sure to coat both sides, and then stick it on the tray. I baked these at 450 degrees for 10 minutes. Then I let them cool for a few minutes and they were ready to eat. In addition to sweet potato fries, you can also make sweet potato chips. I took 2 small sweet potatoes and began chopping them up into thin slices. In a large bowl, I poured in olive oil, salt, and pepper. Then I went ahead and poured in the sweet potatoes and mixed them until they were fully coated with the oil. I began to lay them out onto a cookie sheet, and I spread them out so they weren't touching and they would cook correctly. I baked them in the oven for 20 minutes at 375 degrees, and I didn't show this, but I took them out halfway through to flip them over, and when they were done, I let them cool for a few minutes. Watch out though, because depending on how thin they are, they'll cook faster and possibly burn.